gone the same line as Resident Evil movies.
Yeah.
The best one still for me for Resident Evil films is the third one. I actually really enjoy the third one, Extinction, the one that's set in Vegas. I think that's the best one actually out of them. And then the next two after that were just video games. It just like whatever. They're just doing whatever now. It is so far
I
gone.
need to revisit those.
They're so far gone from the original
Not
concept.
really.
Yeah.
But you can't. If you do, we can. You know what? I'll set up a rabbit room, and we'll schedule like a few days where we'll just sit and we'll watch them. Wabbit.
That works for me.
I do
That
want to
works for
revisit
me.
the Resident Evil
Gesundheit.
films
Thank
at
you.
some point. Too.
There's already a sixth film in
What?
development
Of what?
Yeah.
of Underworld.
Yep.
Yeah, that's. Well,
No, there's the one that's
you
coming
mean
out,
the one
which
that's
is
coming
Blood
out
Wars.
now, which is
And then there's a
Bloodlines,
sixth
yeah.
one already in development.
Well, yeah,
Oh my god.
dude, those
That's what
movies.
happens when you have money.
Those movies, in
Money and
relative.
can sail in leather.
Yeah, she sells tickets right there. She's got my ticket already. But let's get started here. I've said too much. So
Shiny vinyl, not wet leather.
Shiny.
Whatever.
Shiny
Whatever.
vinyl.
she's kicking people's ass in tight outfit. There you go.
Should make everybody wear that same outfit though.
I don't want to see me in that outfit. That'd be scary. Now that'd be a horror movie right there. We're gonna get this started before this goes any further.
A friend of mine who worked on the Oshkosh Horror Film Festival, Lee, we got together and we said, hey, can we bring back a horror film festival in Oshkosh and kind of pay tribute to the Oshkosh Horror Film Fest? And hopefully we did that festival justice, and we had like over 200 films submitted to the film festival this year, and out of those we had 45 films that played over 2 days.
Awesome. And we are not going to review all 45 films, though we probably could, that showed at the fest. But I wanted this crew to kind of bring a few of the ones that stood out to them that they really enjoyed. There was a lot of short films and a few features, but mostly short films. But we're going to start off tonight. I want to start with Glenn. We'll start with Glenn. Glenn, what was one of your standout films for you from the new Horror Fest?
That'd be The Stylist.
Nice, yes. By Jill Six. She told me how to pronounce her name, and I unfortunately cannot.
Margizian?
Thank you. See, you get it. But you're better with names than I am. You're better with a lot of things than I am. Speaking of better things.
Well, thank you there, Todd.
You're welcome. What was it about The Stylist that stood out for you for the fest?
And not this isn't to say that no other films were like this. It was beautifully shot.
Mm-hmm.
The cinematography was absolutely stunning. And I'm becoming more a fan of horror that isn't so much the monster that in the closet. It's more the monster inside us, and that's what this movie. It really kind of it's more of a it's people are the worst monsters, and it's not just that people are evil. There's people are messed up and people are broken.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that in the story.
Yeah, they really cover that well in the story. And for Jill's, I think this is her second short that she's shot. You could really see this was a more involved film, and I actually got to interview her. Check it out on the YouTube page, where she talks about shooting this versus her first film, Call Girl. And yeah, it impressed me as well. I got to see it early from a screener review, which is also on our YouTube page. Check out. And yeah, it impressed me. I was blown away with the quality and just the story and everything about it for an indie short film, and the way they had it financed, I thought it looked fantastic. Dawn, how about you and the stylist?
Oh, I agree. I loved it. It was a wonderful glimpse into the tragedy, or the apparent tragedy, of somebody who is so dissatisfied and desperate within their life and within themselves, that they are trying anything to be happy, to feel better. And like Glenn said, it is a stunning short about the monster within ourselves.
Yeah, well, the whole realistic monster within ourselves, I always find a little bit scarier too than the actual monster, because humans really come up with some really crazy shit when their brain breaks. And yeah, that's always a little bit scarier, I think, than the monster in the closet. How about you, Paul? What appealed to you with the stylist?
The two things that stood out for me is, of course, Claire and the pacing. With the pacing, I thought the story moved along very, very well. It pulls you in right off the bat, because it was like, well, what is this movie going to be really about? And then it just gets there. You know, you don't have to wait very long. And then it just keeps going, and it's wonderfully paced. And then, of course, I mentioned the character of Claire is just an amazing character, because you're like, why would someone this, beautiful think that she's like ugly inside? Mm-hmm. And it's just it's a great like insight into what people really, their self-image of who they are.
Right. It gives you that window of that, and make you realize that even the most people who culture might seem attractive, that person doesn't always necessarily see themselves as that. So and that's what I love about short films too, though, is most of them, not all of them, but most of them seem to be fairly decent paced, and they get right to the point. They don't have a whole lot of time or money to really build or do padding, so they really cut to the point with it. And I sometimes like shorts better than features. How about you, Glenn? Do you think short films, especially for indie cinema, sometimes are better off as shorts than trying to do features?
Absolutely. It's one of my number one, I don't know if the complaints, I guess, about a lot of the feature-length films that I watch that are indie feature films is they had a great short film here, and for whatever reason they said, let's pad this out and make it 2 hour, an hour and a half or whatever long. And they didn't need to. They had a great film already, and they just made it too big and too bulky. And they threw on all this extra stuff they didn't need. They had a great story at 22 minutes.
Right.
Just pad it out with, let's just throw in an 11-minute running scene.
Oh God! Oh my God!
Oh my God! But yeah, and with the stylist though, what is interesting is a lot of people that I talked to afterwards, and even you talked to Jill. You can see there could be more with this character there, though. That's what I liked about the stylist too, is the fact that it was a great short film. It was really everything that everybody said here, but also you could see there was potential to explore more. And it'll be interesting to see if she does come up with a feature for the character, because I'd like to see how they explore that character more, because I think there's a number of different ways they could approach it. But yeah, excellent choice, Glenn. The stylist really was one of the standouts from the fest. Though I think this year there were various levels of good. Not too many ones that didn't go over well, I think, with the crowd. But Stylist is definitely one of those that was at the top of the list. Paul, how about you? Let's go with you. What was one of the standout ones for you in this festival?
Because I'm just going to start out by saying, obviously, because we went from the 200 submitted to 45, these are all of them are going to be my favorites.
Yes, I was talking to Don. We all ran into that problem, but just looking for more that ones that kind of stood out for you.
Yeah.
From the rest. What's one of them?
I'm basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out the ones that I think were needed a little bit more explanation of why I considered it a horror film.
Okay.
And one of them that stands out for me is the movie Sparks.
Oh, okay.
And in it, you basically have magic has been basically outlawed in this society, and you get the character, and there's no dialogue, so it's all done through just pantomiming and such. And you get these two characters basically running from the authority, essentially, and then one of the characters, when she reveals that in order to save them, she reveals that she has magical abilities. Her friend or roommate basically turns on her, and then through, of course, the movie magic, the character has a change of heart, and it's on the surface it doesn't sound like a horror movie, but it's got supernatural elements because you got the witchcraft. But what I really thought that this movie, why it stood out for me, was it seemed like a metaphor for a lot of different things. You could be like a metaphor for outcasts, or it could be a metaphor for alternative sexuality, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was a very moving piece for me, and the fact that they didn't have to use any words was amazing, and it showed the horror of what society could become if current tensions were allowed to continue the way they are, where people start to like classify people, and they start to criticize people, and then eventually the law steps in and starts to hurt people. So, mm-hmm. And that's why it was horror to me.
Yeah, well, horror takes many different forms, and though it is different as far as approach goes, mm-hmm. I think the fact it deals with witchcraft helps still work it into the whole horror theme of the fest. I thought it was fitting, but I enjoyed the world building they had in there, and I wanted to see, in fact, we discussed this, that the night of the first night of the fest, I wanted to see more, because this felt like they could explore a lot of different things in this world that they built. Dawn, you remember us talking about this, kind of had almost a Buffy feel of sorts, didn't it?
It kind of did, and you're right. If there is one thing that this short did, was create a rich and richly layered world full of potential, and if not horror, then definitely it was a horrific world. Mm-hmm. As Paul said, these are things that have the potential for happening, and what's worse, has actually happened in the past. Mm. And the fear that maybe we haven't quite learned from, enforcing labels and things. Mm-hmm. like that. But yeah, I think it's I love the world that was created in this, and you wouldn't need to see more from the two characters that were in this short, but there's definitely room for an entire story built in this world.
Yeah, or a lot of short stories, almost like a series. I would love to see a series in this world. But as far as the character goes, yeah, and I like the idea of the no dialogue. I always find that interesting to tell a story with very little to no dialogue. Glenn, how about you with this one with Sparks? What'd you feel about this one?
Well, I don't really have anything else to add. I liked it. I liked. I like a lot of times where simpler is better, and this, we definitely went, mm-hmm. as you mentioned, with the no dialogue, and you can tell a great story still, even without having words, I guess.
Sure.
Words.
Words.
Those pesky words that just get in the way of things, and then
them damn moving pictures, I tell you.
Let's go back to silent films now.
Go back to silent. You could, in a way. I've seen a few indie silent films actually that are pretty interesting. Well, this one could be considered almost a silent film, and I also saw another one really made by a director who really does a lot of interesting and controversial work. But the movie Apple Cart was one where it had no dialogue, and it was one of those films as well where you could still tell a story. And so, yeah, I like films that are able to do that. And this one was able to not only tell the story of the two girls, but build the world with really no dialogue. And that I thought was impressive for the creators of the short film. So Sparks is definitely one. Hopefully it shows up in an anthology of some sort at some point, or up on Vimeo like some people with short films are doing now, so other people can enjoy it rather than just festival goers. Dawn, how about you? Let's go with you. What's one of the films that stood out for you besides the ones we've mentioned so far?
Well, I'm going to go with something a little bit lighter and crazier. And I thought that the movie High Neighbor was one that definitely stood out. Yeah. It's that crazy, over-friendly neighbor that no matter what you do or how many times you murder him, he keeps coming back and trying to help you.
That one is so entertaining. And original, I thought. I thought it was kind of an original take on that whole story. And the guy that got to play the neighbor, too, was just, oh, my God. Part of me wanted him to be in my neighborhood, and part of it didn't.
Hi, neighbor.
Oakley dokley.
Oakley dokley. Take a picture where he had a film camera that he took a picture with. And he's winding the film. I thought that was just, oh my Lord, that short, was hilarious, and it was definitely dark though. Paul, would you say it was dark?
It definitely was, but it was still not like, it wasn't going to be like depressing dark. I mean, it was very enjoyable. It had these moments of wow, that's like, oh my God, it was outrageous in some spots. So,
and that was made by a Wisconsin filmmaker, was it not?
Firmament Films.
Yes, Firmament Films. Boy, I can't say that 3 times fast. But I enjoyed this one. I got a kick out of it. What'd you think of the ending, Glenn, for High Neighbor? Did it surprise you? The ending with the how it turned out, how it resolved.
No, I spotted that coming a mile away.
Oh, really? The multiple?
No, not at all. No, it surprised me. Absolutely surprised me. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, it really puts it in a whole different category with that ending, which we're not trying to, even though it's a spoiler, we're not trying to spoil these too much for you folks, because I definitely want you to seek these out and see them. And so, Dawn, what was it the most that appealed to you with High Neighbor, though? Was it the character, or just the overall story? What was it that the most that you think appealed to you?
Well, initially, it was the neighbor. It was the guy, because he was just always so cheerful and right there, no matter what. It was, you're my best friend, and I'm going to do anything I can to make you happy. But then as you kind of paid more attention to the film, you realize that this woman that doesn't much care for her neighbor, you realize that there's a lot going on with her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just going nuts. And she's losing. I mean, it was all the little details that were put in where you just kind of stop and go, wait a second, did she just lose days here?
Yeah.
So it was all the details that were added in subtly, but very well.
Yeah, they do very well with the subtle on it, and kind of a little bit of a misdirection as well to make you wonder exactly what's going on. So, yeah, I got a kick out of that one quite a bit. I guess for me, I'll pick one here that stood out for me. It was Bullet of Madness.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, the story of a plastic surgeon who, as a child in the womb, got a bullet to the head, and yet he somehow survived, grew up, became a plastic surgeon, a very successful one. But the bullet causes some odd consequences after an appointment goes awry with a local known gangster.
And a botched
Oh.
nose job.
Bunch nose job, yeah. Because he was more like a family member.
It doesn't look Italian. That's not an Italian nose.
Nose.
It's a Jew nose. I'm like, oh my god. Oh, this one blew me away because it was just so off the rails, but fun, and you just couldn't look away. It was crazy. It's horror, as in there's a lot of gore and there's some creative kills and it gets intense. But on the other hand, man, this thing they just went with it. It's like they took one idea, they just rolled with it. Glenn, how'd you feel about this one?
I love this one. It, again, is dealing with, although it's much more tongue-in-cheek than The Stylist, again, it's dealing with the monster within and the madness and the being broken. Just so much fun.
It was. I kind of liked it was not exactly a modern set in modern times either. Didn't it have a little more of a retro feel to it? Did you think? Like
a little bit. I don't know if that was meant to mean that it was like supposed to be retro, or just more of the kind of trying to do the whole wholesome kind of feel to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they might have felt like they put them in that period type of dress in that because that period is kind of associated with cheese.
The dark side of Pleasantville.
The dark side of Pleasantville, exactly. Dawn, how about you? What stood out with you with this one, with Bullet of Madness?
I liked the retro feel to it. Well, even though I didn't necessarily think retro, I thought manic. that manic happiness, everybody's so happy all the time and everything is good and there's no if you even start thinking negative at all, then you have this overcast. I love the dramatic swings in that helped to represent the moods.
Yeah, the mood swings. The film stayed with the tone of the main character who had the bullet lodged in his brain the whole time, and his solution to problems. Paul, how'd you feel about that? Everybody gets a bullet.
Yes, because it ties it all in, and it made it. I like films that have those book endings, and this one had it, and it was just extremely fun film because of it. So.
Yeah, it felt like it could definitely fit in with some of those those late 80s, early 90s anthology type stories, or this would have been a Tales from the Crypt almost from HBO.
I was coming to Tales from the Crypt, or even like an episode of Monsters.
Yeah. Yeah,
I love where they're taking the scalpels and they're just going.
Yes.
Yeah,
they're smiling. They're smiling. It's just like they're so happy doing it. It makes you smile, even though it's such a horrific sight. You have to smile because they're smiling. It's like so happy.
Well, it's not just smiles. It's the type of smile. The two nurses that assist the crazy doctor in dispatching these people, the smiles on their face are so genuinely bright and cheery that you're just sitting there going, I shouldn't be smiling with them as they're chopping up someone's face, but I am. Why am I smiling so?
Cinematic Prozac.
Yes, cinematic Prozac. It's really good. I like that. But it showed that it was effective. The director in that, they handled it very well, and you get plenty of your gore in that one as well for you gore whores out there. So it's cheery and gory. So, Dawn, how about you? Let's go with you. What was one of the another short that or feature film that stood out for you for the fest?
Another short that I liked, and I liked it because. Because it introduced us to a different world and a different view of the world, and that is Demon in the Waiting Room.
Yes. Well,
I liked the world, and I liked the vision, and the perspective from Raven James.
Mm-hmm.
And how tortured he was by being a spiritual medium and by seeing all these ghosts.
But he can only see them when he's drunk.
No, he sees them all the time.
Or he sees them all the time.
He gets drunk to protect himself from them.
That's right. I'm sorry. Thank you. I just like that concept quite a bit with that. And him talking to the demons. The one we saw is Demon in the Waiting Room. There's also one that was just the waiting room, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
And there's another one as well.
And then
Hot Summer Chill.
Yep. And then there's a book.
and there's a book which
all these stories are based on. He's building up to a potential feature film.
Yeah, you could see that, and the Raven James character is an interesting character, and I like the whole approach of him being able to talk to these demons and such. And I like the demon design in this one. Glenn, what'd you think of the makeup effects and the thing? Because this was really shot on, and we're talking a micro budget here.
No, I think it was well done. Mm-hmm. Though the one thing is, part of me kind of hopes he never makes a feature out of it. Mm-hmm. Because I think these work well as shorts, and I don't know unless he can get like a really good budget. Mm-hmm. I can't see this one really doing as
how about like a feature
not delivering as well as a feature. Mm-hmm. I think it just works better as a series of shorts.
Maybe an anthology feature.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I like the story and everything, too. I'm not sure if the person he got to play Raven James could carry a feature at this point.
There's that as well.
I mean, no offense. When you're working with micro-budget, you get who you can. And I think he did all right, but I actually like the demon more than Raven James in this one. Paul, how about you with the Raven James?
I love that character. I really do like Raven James. I think he's the type of character that I kind of really associated with in my younger, high school type days.
So you got drunk and talked to demons in high school?
Yes, all the time. Okay. All the time. No, it's just I felt like I was the awkward person, mm-hmm. and that I had to like isolate myself for the good of humanity, so to speak,
and talk to demons in the hallways.
No, he's just a really cool character, and I felt like this is the type of character that I would, if I got to play a character, would want to play this type of character. And so I enjoyed the Raven James character. I thought the actor was good. Mind you, it just might be that we haven't been able to explore that character more, because he does, because in shorts that's one of the bad limitations of it is you can explore it to a certain point,
Right.
So
you can only go so far, and then it suddenly becomes more about the character than your story, and
exactly
you don't necessarily want that. This is definitely one of those where I see the potential And as Glenn, and I got to agree with Glenn, if he would do a feature, this was one where I would hope he'd take his time and get enough budget to really do it justice, because you can see the potential here, but you can also see how if you don't have just the right resources available, how it may not come off well. But there is potential there with that type of story that I think you could make something really big and interesting as far as a feature, but an anthology film would work as well very easily, and those seem to be popular nowadays.
Well, and even beyond that, the Raven James character is interesting enough that if he continues to make shorts, if he can just continues to make shorts and develop his technique and his vision, moving on to a feature film, not necessarily in the same world as Raven James, but there's probably enough interest in watching the shorts that he could really create something good as his next step later on, not necessarily with Raven James.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, the Raven James Chronicles, I knew you were going to mention that one.
Of course I was going to mention that one.
Because that one you've talked about quite a bit since you first saw it, and likely, and I could definitely see why. So, good choice there as well. Glenn, how about you? Do you have another one that stood out for you that we haven't talked about yet?
Sure.
Which one?
That would be Gags.
Yes, Gags. Tell us what you enjoyed about Gags.
So I'm very tired of found footage films. Particularly because I think it's done, and it's often done poorly. Where to the point where there's no logical reason why this person would still be filming what they're filming. And this movie does it in a way that makes sense. I mean, because it's just for most of the shots, it's some young people out having fun, and young people out having fun. Well, they have their camera out there filming their friends. It makes complete sense. And I mean, also, I think clowns in general don't scare me. But I think they did a good job of just having it being creepy enough where it's not. I think the goal was to be more unsettling or creepy than to be outright scary, as far as the actual appearance of the clown. Because sometimes you'll go with like a much more demonic, almost not human looking being, and this one doesn't do that. It's still just a clown. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of makeup and stuff like that, but I don't know. I like the actual clown because it gets that good creepiness without making you think that there's anything supernatural about it.
Right. And as the story played out too, I liked how it played out because it didn't quite go the direction I thought it was going to go with the balloon and the green goo. So for Gags, Paul, how about you? What appealed to you about Gags?
I like the juxtaposition of having something that I usually value clowns as being very cheerful and makes me happy, and to have and I know it's hard to say now because of all the clown stuff that's going around now. That like the image of clowns that I've had as a kid is way different than what people are having now. But when I saw this movie, I'm still in that mindset of, oh, clowns are really nice and happy. So it was very creepy to see this childhood image kind of tarnished in a little way, and it almost kind of made me think of like the Michael Myers thing from Halloween, where the creepiness is like in the corner of your eye. You kind of see him there, and it was just that added creep factor that made me enjoy the film more.
Yeah, it definitely is a creepy character. Dawn, how about you with Gags?
I thought it was good for exactly the same reasons that Biff said, Glenn said. The found footage was done excellently. Costuming was great. I um, I liked that he was just kind of chilling there and ominous for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of thought I was kind of trying to think, would it have been just as creepy if he was dressed up as something other than a clown? Yeah, probably. So that definitely helped the whole creep factor. And I you gotta give Adam credit for a brilliant promotional campaign.
Yes, the viral campaign that started out with just a creepy clown being sighted around Green Bay and actually getting picked up by news agencies and making the news and the story that actually traveled kind of around the world, surprisingly. A viral marketing campaign, which nowadays for many indie films, I've talked to a couple filmmakers, and nowadays it's almost as if the indie films have to build their audience before their film is out. And I think Gags did that as far as the mystery, because there were reports, because they would have the character Gags just stand on a corner in Green Bay at various locations. And and there were reports and they made the news. And unfortunately, some events occurred to where the curtain had to be pulled back a little bit earlier than I think expected. But at the same time, we're glad it did, because you've got a nice little piece of horror film here, which, I agree. Found footage, I usually feel, is just a beaten genre. You see so much of it now, and you have ever since Blair Witch, especially. But and it's hard to find original ones that are still effective. But Gags was, it surprised me, one, that it was found footage, and two, that it was actually effective. It made sense, as Glenn said. That's the toughest thing, is you don't have someone sitting there going, shoot this, shoot everything, we must get everything. Thank you very much. We don't have that in this, and I was happy that we didn't have a you must shoot everything.
You mean you shouldn't use drones and to film things?
No, I just, that always is the frustrating part with some of those found footage films. But here, it was used effectively. Everything made sense of why they had their cameras on, which is one of the hardest sells, I think, with found footage. And this is actually the second, one of two clown shorts that played in the festival. And of the two, it definitely was my favorite of the two. The other one was The Watcher, which also involved a clown. But this one was definitely effective, and it's not just because it's from Wisconsin, too. It's actually a very well-made short film, and hopefully it makes the festival rounds, and,
it's doing good so far. I've been following it, and it's doing amazing. It's doing amazingly.
Well, considering clowns are in the news in general, it's just striking while the iron is hot,
Yeah. Well, it's amazing how many people lined up to have a picture taken with Gags. We actually had to stop the film the festival a little bit and we actually had to move him away from the stage area because there was just a big, large demand, because they wanted to talk with him, they wanted to have pictures taken, and we took it like extra 15-20 minutes just because people really wanted to meet Gags, which is really cool. That was my first experience with celebrity, basically.
It was really impressive how many people wanted to get their picture with the creepy clown. Gags the Clown is definitely an excellent one that hopefully, if you've got a festival that's showing near you, you guys should go see it, because it is definitely an interesting one. Paul, how about you? What's another one?
I'm going to say Izzy Lee's Innsmouth.
Innsmouth.
Yes.
with Tristan Risk. Yes.
Yes. And a lot of people are going to say they like the film because of the ending, but I'm going to say I like the film because of its homage to Lovecraft. It is just a wonderful homage to Lovecraft, from the names of the characters to the story elements and the feel of the entire film. It very much felt like a very proud homage to Lovecraft.
It did. It did have a Lovecraftian feel to it, a Lovecraftian tone to it, and I like the story of the creature, and not just because it was Tristan Risk sans clothing. No, I like the whole the mythology of the creature in that, and the history behind it, and how that played out. How about you, Don? How'd you feel about Innsmouth?
I liked it. I don't think it needed to be quite as
visual.
I think it would have. I think it would have been. Let's rephrase. I think it would have been just as effective without the shocking bit. But I think it definitely. I don't think anybody who saw that movie is ever going to forget it because of the shocking bit. But I do think it would have been just as effective without it, because it was an excellent homage to Lovecraft. It did have that familiar tone, and the kind of the way it was filmed, and the color tone they chose to use for the filming was very, I want to say watery, but I'm not sure that that's the right term. The kind of washed out, wet feel to it. It was a very well done film, and yes, Tristan Risk without clothing. So yes.
She's a very talented actress. So it was fun to see her in a role like this, not just because of that, but she's one of those independent actresses out there that does a lot of diverse roles and is not afraid at all of, I don't think there's a role yet that she's been, hesitant to take. I don't think. She definitely takes a bunch of different roles out there, many different aspects. And I dug Innsmouth. I thought it was good. I'm not as familiar with Lovecraft as you find folks, but I enjoyed it. Glenn, if you're still with us, what did you feel about Innsmouth?
Innsmouth is a short film that exists and played at the film festival.
Yes, not exactly your favorite of one of your favorites of the film fest.
No, it was not.
Was it because of the shocking bit?
Not at all.
Not at all. Just in general.
It was. The acting was very. Tristan Risk actually surprised me, is because she's very kind of not good in this. And I think she's a good actress. I mean, I liked her in American Mary, and it's the one I saw her in recently. But I mean, I know she can act, and it's just
right.
It's like she was channeling her inner Jeremy Irons and just overacting.
There was a bit of overacting with it, yes.
Yes.
And I was trying to describe how she was acting. I was trying to think how to describe how she was acting. But she actually reminded me of a woman that I met like 3 years ago, who actually behaved and spoke that way.
Oh, really? Wow.
A real person that actually, the gestures, the kind of lifting up of the chin, the deliberate, condescending speech. Mm-hmm. This was an actual real person that I met on the street. They weren't acting. That's just how they were. And it kind of took me by surprise to see that, because I would have thought the exact same thing, the overacting, if I wouldn't have met somebody
just like that.
just like that.
Well, and I think part of it isn't so much that she's over. I think part of it is the way it is edited.
Mm-hmm.
The scene that strikes me in particular is her laugh. When the detective first wakes up, it comes in. It's one. The laugh is kind of over the top villain. That that kind of.
Yeah.
But it's the way it's timed in the scene. Also makes me think it was just edited wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I was
Paul.
going to say I honestly liked that because of it, because it gives you, like, again, the whole homage to Lovecraft. Lovecraft is all about, like, giving you this kind of a sense of where is your sanity really, and makes you question it. And I think they intentionally, perhaps not intentionally, I hope they did it intentionally, is to try to throw you off. Like, there's something not quite right about this, and that's what Lovecraft does to you. Is he's that little guy? He's scratching you. He's scratching your brain, and you don't even know it until it's too late.
Maybe if Lovecraft did a thing where he wrote and then just blank page opened the door on the next page, because it's just the editing just seems off on it. And I don't know. I think what really drew me out of it was the lead actress.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I know it's low budget, but she just didn't come across as, she came across as someone reading lines.
Right. And
So
you do get that in some indie films, because a lot of these, it's their first time in front of a camera or in a role that maybe they are not used to being in. So, but I can definitely see that with the main actress, especially she did seem a little bit stiff in her acting, which maybe also then affected the actors around her and made them seem maybe more than overacting a bit, just because she may have been less acting. But it's definitely one that will be remembered. Did you get any complaints, Paul, at all about that film or any films that showed at the fest?
I think the only one that, like, probably threw people for a loop, at least they came to me about, was The Chair.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, the feature film that the second feature that we played on the opening night.
Excuse me.
It was called The Chair.
And what was it? Was it just because of the extremeness of The Chair?
Very extreme, yes. I think so. I don't think people were thinking that we were going to go there. Especially since the films leading up to it were more of the creepy factor, because we had the Thin Place, then that was followed by Innsmouth, which was then followed by Gags, and then we had this little break. And then I think when we went right into this kind of prison horror type of film, they were just not ready.
Well, I think what threw people off with The Chair was the fact that it was Roddy Piper in it.
Oh, that's true too.
Not just Roddy Piper.
There's a lot of
and Bill Oberst Jr. and
Zach Galligan. Is that how
yeah,
Zach, yeah.
I had a problem seeing my nice little hero from Gremlins playing that role.
And I think that's the thing too that threw people off, not just the visuals, but who was in it doing a film like that. And me personally, that's what kind of appeals to me. I always like when seeing Dr. And I'm a big, I'll admit, not only Roddy Piper fan. I think he is unfortunately, rest in peace, but he actually was a better actor than people gave him credit for, I think, because of some of the movies he did. But Bill Oberst Jr. is another, I'm a big fan of his, and getting to see him in there. And when I did the review of this film, Bill Oberst Jr. said he actually had a very serious scene with Roddy Piper, and he was very impressed with how Roddy approached the scene and the character. It kind of surprised him how serious he kind of took into it and how well he did.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And you look at that role, Roddy actually does well. You almost forget this was the same guy who, fire extinguished Morton Downey Jr. in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania 5, I think it was. Glenn, how about you and the chair? Did you enjoy this one at all, or was this one of those where it didn't quite appeal to you?
I didn't watch it.
Oh, that's right. You did not see it.
No, I spent my entire time talking to people.
You were talking to people on that one. So, okay, well,
he helped out on the vendor tables as well.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
So we'll cut that part out then. Okay, that's fine. So, so many to pick from, and I guess I'll come in with my final. There were so many here, and we haven't touched on the features, and well, we did with the chair, but still, for me, I really dug a lot of these shorts, and it's hard to pick another one. But I will say, I'm going to say, and it'll probably make some people sigh. Well, Munchies was good. The stop motion animation zombie one was hilarious.
I think you like scary little fuckers, just because I want to say it.
I was going to say scary little fuckers, actually. Well, it was tossed between that or the bitch blood popcorn.
Oh, I love that.
That was a good one too.
Oh, bitch blood popcorn. Yeah, we could either one of those. They were all. There really was very few ones that didn't appeal to me at all that I didn't get a kick out of. Bitch blood popcorn was really interesting on where they went with that. Paul, what'd you think of that? Where they went to it? Did you expect it to go that violent, considering the way it opens?
No, I didn't. It and the opening just draws you in. I mean, it's cool. It's like watching a jazz thing going on, you know, and it just draws you in. And I didn't expect it because even though I actually look for things like that, I wasn't expecting it. So yeah, they did a good job of doing that to me. So
you just like the girl dancing in the beginning. Admit it.
It's how she moved. It was that ooziness of it, and you know, and yeah, and it's bitch popcorn and blood.
Thank you, bitch popcorn and blood. I knew.
Yep.
I had it some combination of 3 words there. I was trying to put together bitch popcorn and blood. Dawn, how about you with bitch popcorn and blood? Did it kind of surprise you where it went?
It kind of did. As Glenn said about earlier films, it's one of those that examines the inner monster, but in a much more humorous and eyebrow-raising way, because really she is being hunted by she is being hunted by mafiosos in retribution for putting ice cubes in wine.
Yeah.
It's scandalous.
Scandalous.
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised, although not overly surprised, that her little woman that she was talking to, who that turned out to be.
Woo-woo. Oh, yes. And I liked that, though. I kind of knew that, but what was interesting is by putting her in there, the person that she kept coming back to and kind of egging her on, made you question who else in the room was real and who wasn't. And I like that.
Exactly.
You know, it made you wonder, well, the job that she took, you know, how much is being, you know, within your brain and whatnot, and how much is real. You know, and I like that questioning of it, and it's definitely got a different feel to it, and I liked it quite a bit. How about you, Glenn, with this one? Did you enjoy this one at all?
Yeah. I liked it more than Innsmouth.
There you go.
Wow.
Did it kind of surprise you on where it was going, or did you see it coming?
A little bit, it did. Yeah, I think so. A little bit. I don't know. Maybe it's just I was so exhausted from watching so many short films
And getting no sleep.
and getting no sleep. Yeah, we did not get much sleep. and I really didn't get any sleep. But I don't know. It was okay. It didn't really wow me in any way.
Sure. I just liked it because it had the feel you're like, and even the mafioso part where she's getting hunted down because she put ice in wine.
Mhm.
I kind of liked that because we've seen that kind of behavior in other gangster type films.
Yeah.
Where you mixed my lettuce, you got the wrong lettuce, and they shoot the guy, because they got the wrong, so that was kind of fitting. And especially, and especially when those guys do show up, it just makes you wonder, where are we going with that?
So here's a question. They're working in she's working in some sort of popcorn bar.
Yeah.
And I thought about this later on.
Mhm.
The question, when you ask, sweet or salty?
Yeah.
Right.
Salt or
So,
sugar.
yep, salt or sugar.
Yep.
So is that it's a nice parallel that goes with what is she struggling? What is her internal struggle?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet or salty?
Yeah, I did feel that parallel with it. And so, yeah, and I like the way it was shot. It's shot all within one room, so that's always cool when they can make it interesting and it stays in one location like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of many great shorts. Again, we could probably talk for another 2 hours about all the films that were at the fest, but I think we're going to wrap it up for the evening. And I hope this gave you a taste of the Northeast Wisconsin Horror Film Festival. And you can look it up for next year because it so far reports, rumors, right, Paul, that it will be returning in 2017?
Yes, it's for October. We are shooting to have the same venue, hopefully. But it's all about logistics, timing and stuff like that. But we definitely are. We put in a request, and we'll see how everything pans out. But we definitely want to have another film festival. It went off extremely well. We had a lot of people get together, and for an entire weekend, we got to watch films, and we really just got to be together, and it was just a wonderful experience. And that's what I remembered about the other film festival, and that's why we wanted to have this one again. So,
and I agree on that quite a bit. And so, folks, I hope this wet your whistle for it. It's the website is www.newhorrorfest.com, so you can check out the links of the other films that showed. And real quick, this is where we go down. We have the people kind of pimp their stuff. So, Dawn, where can they find you at?
You can find me in theaudience.net.
And Glenn?
You can find me at guyinabunker.com. You can find me on YouTube with the Be Me Bunker, or gncasts.com with The Adventure Party, or just follow me on Twitter at guyinabunker.
Awesome. And Paul?
I just want everybody to keep going to the newhorrorfest.com site, so I'm gonna pimp that site more. So
Pimp it again, that's fine.
Yeah, www.newhorrorfest.com.
Awesome. Yes, it is a great fest, and yeah, you designed it well too. It's kind of a fun little thing to look at all the posters and that from all the films that showed over the festival. So check that out at that website. And for all our stuff here, specialmarkproductions.com, where you can catch out all the reviews. I soon will have a page up for the New Horror Fest that'll put all in one spot the interviews I did. Otherwise, you can go to the youtube.com/specialmark, where you can see all the interviews I did. I actually did 7 of them this year at the festival. Plus, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, it takes a little longer to put together, I'll have the Q&As up that were there at the fest. All kinds of great stuff at our YouTube channel, as well as specialmarkproductions.com, where you can find this podcast and the archived episodes. Please like us and rate us on iTunes and Stitcher. We would appreciate it there. It gets us noticed a bit more. We thank you so much for listening in. Hope this gets you interested, if not into the New Horror Film Festival, at least look for your local Indie Horror Film Festival and help support indie cinema where the true original stuff is coming from. And we thank you for listening in, and say goodnight, everyone.
Good night,
Good night,
everyone.
Everyone.